Every founder worries about external threats, competition, market shifts, funding drying up, but the harsh truth is that many startups aren't killed by the market, they are killed by the founders themselves. Why should you, as a business operator, pay attention to this message? Because your greatest asset and biggest risk is you. The data makes it more than clear. 72% of entrepreneurs report mental health struggles and over half experience burnout in the past year. Business postmortems show that internal issues like team conflict, burnout, and loss of focus contribute to nearly a quarter of failures. In other words, the odds is that your own habits and mindset could make or break your company. This is the urgent wake-up call. Your business survival may depend on conquering these internal demons we are going to discuss. Beyond the numbers, there is a deeper reason to tune in. Building a lasting company isn't just a strategic or financial challenge, it's a test of character and leadership discipline. It demands resilience, humility, and integrity. Timeless moral principles that the Growth Architect believes are the bedrock of sustainable success. Think about it this way: a founder who lacks purpose or lets pride run rampant can sabotage the very vision they set out to achieve. Conversely, the founders who lead with purpose, who practice discipline and self-awareness, create companies that endure because they themselves grow stronger from within. This video is about recognizing these deadly internal patterns because they ruin you and learning how to replace them with habits rooted in sound psychology and enduring principles. We will dive into 10 fatal patterns from burnout to hubris that silently wreak havoc on founders and their businesses. For such, we will expose the real-world data behind the danger of each, bring it to life with hard-earned founder stories, agitate the pain points so you truly feel what's at stake, and then most importantly, offer clear, principle-based solutions. By the end of this video, you will not only know what these pitfalls are, but why they happen on a human level and how to rise above them through better operations, leadership, strategic designs, and mindset. If you are an experienced founder or operator building a long-term company, this is essential knowledge for you. It's not about abstract theory, it's rigorous, real-world insight into the very behaviors that have caused seasoned entrepreneurs to flame out. More importantly, it's about how you can avoid becoming another statistic by forging a stronger, wiser version of yourself. With this said, let's get into it. Burnout and neglecting self-care is the slow collapse of founder mental and physical health under extreme work stress, most of the time because of lack of physical or mental activity and stress. It's alarmingly common and deadly to both founder and company. The urgency here can't be overstated. In one recent survey, 42% of business owners said they neglected self-care in just last month. Startup founders often clock marathon hours without any self-maintenance. Fueled by passion and pressure, they keep going until their bodies and minds start to give out. Medical and psychological studies consistently show that entrepreneurs suffer higher rates of chronic stress, anxiety, and depression, significantly higher than the general population. Neglecting self-care isn't working hard over a long period of time without proper maintenance. It's a state of physical and emotional exhaustion where your effectiveness plummets. Founders who burn out as a result often make poor decisions, lose the creative spark that drove their business, or in the worst cases, have to step down entirely. Imagine pouring years into your company only to become incapacitated at the very moment it needs you the most. The cost is not just business failure, it can be your health, relationship, and sense of self. Feel the weight. It's 3 a.m. and you are awake for the fourth night this week. Heart pounding and in anxiety. The inbox is overflowing and every small request feels like a mountain. And you realize that you haven't taken a day off in months. You tell yourself that you have to keep pushing, that the fate of your startup rests on your shoulders, but that only doubles the pressure. Perhaps you even wear it as the morbid badge of honor. I haven't had a real vacation in years. Meanwhile, your family barely sees you. Your co-founders notice that you are irritable and unfocused, and your creative genius, the very thing that got you here, has faded into monotony. This can be called the soul-killing grind of burnout, where working more actually produces less and less results. Consider the cautionary tale of Arianna Huffington. 2 years into building the Huffington Post, she was so sleep deprived and overworked that she collapsed in her office, hitting her head on her desk and breaking her cheekbone. She woke up in a pool of blood, a literal wake-up call that no level of success is worth destroying your health and life. Many founders aren't so lucky to get a warning this dramatic. They simply degrade slowly until one day they can't go on. The tragedy is that burnout doesn't sneak up overnight. It is the result of a pattern we can change if we address it head on. The antidote to burnout is a discipline of self-care and sustainable work structure like core process that Growth Architect strongly suggests. I will attach the link to the video in the description. In short, core process is a cycle of business process and personal well-being that sets up process for each growth stage of our businesses, from start or innovation of new processes and ventures to more time for family, life, outside of work and self-growth. It teaches us how to treat our bodies and minds as the critical business and not just business assets they are. This isn't soft stuff. It's backed by hard evidence. Studies show that entrepreneurs who prioritize intrinsic motivation and personal well-being are far less likely to burn out, whereas those chasing only money or external validation flame out more often. In practice, this means establishing non-negotiable routines for rest and renewal, adequate sleep, exercise, time with loved ones, and self-development routines. Think of it as sharpening the saw. A dull, overused saw, like sometimes all of us are, can't cut through problems effectively. Great founders learn to pace themselves for the marathon, not sprint. Put it in operational terms, schedule recovery as you would schedule an important meeting with an investor. That might mean implementing policies for yourself, like no emails after 9 p.m. or a mandatory day off every week to prevent work from devouring all time. Psychologically, it requires to accept the humble truth that you are not a superhuman as any of us that watches this video as well. We are not machines. We have limits, and respecting them is a sign of wisdom and not a weakness. As Arianna Huffington realized, burnout or self-neglecting is a universal problem, and solving it means fundamentally changing how we work and live. On a moral level, we need to remember that discipline includes disciplining our work habits, having courage to step away and recharge so we can come back stronger. By caring for ourselves, we are avoiding self-destruction. We are ensuring that our ventures have healthy and focused leaders at its helm for the long haul. The lone wolf syndrome bottlenecks the growth that comes with offloading stage of core process and refuses proper delegation. It is the founder's fallacy that if I don't do it, it won't be done right. It's an inability or unwillingness to delegate and build systems, turning you into a bottleneck for your company. Founders trapped in hero mode try to do everything themselves, and it slowly strangles the business, the people inside it, and co-founders. It might feel noble to shoulder every task, but the data paints a starkly different picture. Founders on average spend 36% of their week on tasks that could be delegated, which are routine administrative work, minutes that someone else should handle. They are working long hours, sometimes more than 45 hours, and yet half of them admit they struggle to maintain a healthy work-life balance. A struggle directly linked to not letting go of control. What is the impact on the business? Enormous. A survey of entrepreneurs found that those who become expert delegators experienced 82% odds of revenue growth versus just 66% of those who didn't delegate well, and their leverage growth was nearly double, 143% against 80%. In short, refusing to offload and delegate isn't just a personal quirk. It's a recipe for stagnation or failure. You become the ceiling on the company's growth. Tasks pile up waiting for your approval. Opportunities are missed because you are too busy formatting spreadsheets or double-checking every line of code. And your team never fully develops because they aren't trusted to own important work. Ultimately, lone heroes become the lone failures, overwhelmed and burned out, feeding that burnout pattern we just discussed, while the business falls behind more nimble competitors. Feel the trap closing in. You start your company wearing every hat out of necessity, which is absolutely normal. But as you grow, you can't let it go. Every email, every decision, every piece of code or sales call requires your input. At first, it feels like a dedication. Eventually, it feels like a drowning. You are answering Slack messages at midnight about trivial fixes that could be handled without you. Because your team has learned you want to be in the loop on everything. Vacations? Impossible. The business would grind to a halt in your absence. It is the self-employed trap. As entrepreneur, Derek Sivers calls it, you work 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week with every minor question and issue routed to you. Derek recalled how at CD Baby, even after hiring employees, everything fell through him. He hit a breaking point when he realized that he might as well just sit in a chair at the office answering questions all day. That is what the lone hero syndrome feels like. Being peppered with question decisions 24/7, unable to do the high-level work of steering the company because you are mired in the weeds. It's utterly exhausting and deeply demoralizing. One founder described it in this way. I had to portray like I knew what I was doing even though I had no clue most of the time. I bottled everything up. I ended up in the hospital twice. This is the level of stress you will endure if you don't fix this as soon as possible. That was a young tech founder about whom we have just talking who nearly died trying to do it all. Now ask it yourself, how long can you sustain being a hero of every story? At some point the weight is too much. The business either crushes you or you end up crushing it under the weight of your personal limitations. The cure for lone hero syndrome is a combination of humility, trust, and system design. Through offloading process, and once the process is set up and with certain inputs, it can be delegated as a system to your team members. First, the mindset shift needs to happen. Accept that your job as a founder is not to do everything, is to ensure everything gets done in the best way possible, and that includes first doing it yourself, turning each step into an optimized process, and getting your team to follow the process you created and help them innovate and make the process even better over the time. And if they are qualified enough to do so, of course. Humility is the key here. You must admit that other people can do the task well, if not better than you over time, accepting the fact they won't be the best up front and that you are not the sole genius keeping the company alive. As one leadership principle states, if a team member can do a task even 70 to 80% as well as you must let them do it. Why? because there is no place for perfection when it comes to delegation. The slight drop in how you would do it is overwhelmingly outweighed by the increase in overall capacity and focus you gain. In practice, this means building a team you trust and documenting systems so that the company runs smoothly without your constant input. Derek Sivers, in our example above, solved his overwhelm by literally teaching his team his decision-making philosophy and creating a framework for everyone to follow. The result? Within 2 months, the endless questions stopped. His team could handle issues on their own by following guiding principles. Derek was able to step away from daily operations. He even moved to another city to force his issue. The payoff was massive. Because his team was running the business, he could finally focus on growth. And CD Baby's revenue skyrocketed from 1 million to 20 million over the next 4 years. This ultimately reflects a timeless business framework, which states that a system as simple as this work on your business, not just in it. Operationally, set up regular reviews to hand off responsibilities. Look at every task you have been doing and ask yourself, who else can do this or how can this be automated? Then empower that person with training and clear outcomes and step back. Yes, it takes discipline to resist jumping back in upfront when everything is not as ideal as you would want to. But remember the moral principle of stewardship. Your role is to build the machine that builds the product or service, not to be a machine yourself. Adopting this approach is liberating. Not only we are able to focus on our company scale and innovate faster, but we as founders or business operators, we avoid the crushing burnout. We transform from an overburdened hero into an effective leader. In the end, let's ask ourselves, would we rather be heroes in a failing story or the growth architects of a thriving one? With this said, we need to let go of the cape and start building our Justice League instead. Shiny object syndrome is a deadly pattern, inability to focus when we constantly chase new ideas, opportunities, or features at the expense of existing on the core strategy. Often dubbed as shiny object syndrome, it leads founders to zigzag rather than staying the course, ultimately sapping momentum and causing the venture to stall out. Focus isn't just a virtue, it's a matter of survival. Analysis of startup failures show that loss of focus is cited in about 13% of cases as a reason of failure. It is easy to see why. A startup has a limited resources and time to find product market fit and scale. And if the founder is perpetually distracted by the next big idea, is pivoting at every whim, the team can't execute anything well. Chasing too many rabbits means we are going to catch none. It might start innocently. We might discover a new customer segment, divert resources to cater to them. Or we add half a dozen cool features that weren't in the original plan. But each divergence spreads our talent thinner. Projects remain half-finished. Strategies keep changing and the company develops a sort of organization whiplash. Meanwhile, focused competitions are delivering value, shipping updates, and steadily winning market share. Internally, our team will grow frustrated over the time and will get more and more confused. Today's priorities are going to contradict yesterday's ones, and eventually morale dips and key people leave. The end of the day, who wants to row in a circle forever? The hard truth is that saying yes to too many things is just a slow form of self-sabotage. In fact, as founder or a business operator, we should get used to saying ourselves no most of the time. because these kind of genius ideas are delusive and undervalue our effectiveness. As Apple's Steve Jobs, a master of focus, put it, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you have got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are out there. In business terms, focus means sacrifice. And if we don't sacrifice the peripheral opportunities, our core mission will be sacrificed. Let's put in that unfocused founder's shoes. We wake up with a new idea again, an exciting partnership opportunity, or a pivot to different market, and we rush to rally our team around it. They are going to nod at us, maybe with some skepticism, and they are going to start working. But only weeks later, before that initiative gains traction and momentum, we are captivated by another game changer idea and pull everywhere our course except our new strategy, which we started to execute a few weeks ago. In our guts, there is a constant itch that maybe there is something better just around the corner, some magic bullet strategy that's going to make us millionaires overnight, and we must grab it before everything is too late. This feels thrilling at first, like we are innovating, but over time, an anxiety builds around us and our team. We aren't actually making meaningful progress. Releases are getting delayed because features keep changing. Marketing campaigns never launch because the message isn't consistent for long enough. In the end, our company meetings start to feel tense. We start noticing that our co-founders, our team are exchanging glances when we propose yet another change of direction. One of them finally speaks up and says, if we can finish anything eventually that we started. And at that moment, it should hit us hard that in trying to chase everything, we achieved nothing. And we might be driving away the very ideal people trying to help us. It's a painful realization that our leadership is looking less like visionary brilliance and more like lack of discipline. The fear of missing out on a trend or idea has led us into a maze of distractions. And this is something that happens to us in a bigger or smaller scale. This video should help you to identify those moments before they become big enough to affect your finances and your team performance. As each shiny object that we are chasing creates a pile of unfinished work and wasted budget. In the end of the day, our business is going to run to a place where it's no longer going to be profitable. And that's all going to be our fault if we don't start to notice this syndrome before it's too late. Because this is an emotional cost of shiny object syndrome. Excitement is going to turn into confusion, then regret, and as precious time and money burn away, we will see everything collapsing. The solution is very straightforward in concept but challenging in practice. We need to clarify our core mission and say no a lot more than we think. This requires discipline and strategic clarity rooted in the principle that addition by subtraction is sometimes the wisest path. Start with a North Star. What is the one problem that our company exists to solve and for whom? What is the key metric or goal that matters right now? It can be user growth, revenue, engagements, and might be different depending on your industry. And once you have it, you evaluate every new idea or opportunity against it. You got to have core ideology implemented in your business. Each of us has to. This will help us when we are tempted by new idea. Ideally, we can take note of that idea on shiny ideas list, but we don't act on it immediately, but rather we give it some cool off period. Most of the time it will make the hype go away. And we will understand that those ideas were not as crucial as it seemed in the moment. Another useful practice is to schedule regular strategy reviews, where we pivot decisions and we make those pivoting decisions at that moment, not on a whim of midweek and right away. This way, any change of focus is deliberate and justified by idea, not just our impulses. On a personal level, we need to embrace the virtue of patience and commitment and accept the fact that building a business takes a good amount of old-fashioned hard work. We need to remember that great companies are built through consistent execution on a coherent vision, not by trying every possibility at once. Look at when Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997. What did he do first? He slashed Apple's sprawling product lines down to list a few core products so the company could have a focus, a move that saved Apple and made us use MacBook, iPhone, and other tech they make, you name it. That kind of bold focus will take courage from us. A courage to stick with a plan and trust the process. And this takes a leap of faith. A helpful motto to repeat ourselves is, we do fewer things, but we do it better over the time. It is better to nail one product or market than to double in 5. This is also a matter of integrity, staying true to our core purpose without wavering at every distraction. And if we are able to find that focus, which is difficult, we have to set up accountability mechanism. For instance, we can share with our top 3 priorities with our board, if we don't have a board, with mentors or our team, and explicitly ask them to flag when we are derailing onto something else. Create a culture where our team feels safe reminding us, is that part of our current goal? And then they have to fear for telling this, because you set up this healthy relationship with your team. And this aligns with the moral principles of responsibility, allowing others to keep us responsible in our word. In summary, we need to treat focus as a strategic weapon. By channeling our energy and our team's effort into a unified direction, we build momentum. Customers are going to see the value eventually. Investors will see coherent story, and employees and team members are going to see progress, which will boost their morale, and you will get better and better performance. The founder or a business operator who can resist the lure of every shiny object and instead cultivate the Zen-like discipline of focus will find that their startup gains a powerful competitive edge with consistent, purposeful, and on-target growth. We just need to remember that saying no is hard, but it is what separates us from amateurs. And that is what makes us growth architects. Every time we say no to distraction, we are saying yes to our vision's success. Founder ego pattern is the classic pitfall of ego and hubris, when a founder's confidence crosses into overconfidence and arrogance. The founder stops listening to feedback, dismisses advice or criticism, and begins to believe that they are infallible. This founder knows best mentality can create a toxic environment and blind us to fatal mistakes. In essence, pride makes us untouchable and unteachable by our team, and an unteachable founder is on a fast track of failure. Hubris might sound philosophical, but it has a very real business consequences. Consider that disharmony among the team or investors, often driven by a stubborn, egoistical founder, accounts for roughly 13% of startup failures. There is even research by Harvard suggesting that up to 65% of startups fail due in part to co-founder conflict, which frequently stems from clashes of ego and leadership style. A hubristic founder can ignite conflict like dry kindling. Moreover, an arrogant leader tends to ignore data that contradicts their beliefs. We have seen high-profile examples. The WeWork saga, when founder Adam Newman's grandiose vision and refusal to head financial realities led to a disastrous failed IPO and nearly tanked the company. It is essentially a story of hubris. The same for Theranos Elizabeth Holmes, an extreme case where unwavering false confidence and deceit led to one of the biggest startup collapses ever. But ego issues aren't confined to unicorns. They show up on everyday businesses when a founder won't pivot because their idea must be right even as customers tell them otherwise, or when they micromanage and overrule every team decision, driving away talented employees. Ironically, some founders develop ego issues because of initial success, a bit of traction or praise, and suddenly they tune other voices. This creates a dangerous echo chamber where the only sound is the founder's own opinion reverberating. The company loses the benefit of diverse perspectiveness, an honest reality check, and here's a sobering insight. While brash, egocentric founders often grab headlines of forums, studies have found that humble CEOs actually drive better performance and stock returns for the company and the team. In the end of the day, ego-driven leadership might work in short spurts, but it tends to sow the seeds of eventual collapse. Whether through toxic culture, strategic missteps, or an exodus, or disenchantment colleagues. Pride cometh before the fall, as the old proverb from Bible goes, and in startups, that fall can be swift and unforgiving. Picture the mindset of a founder who has started to believe in their own hype. It might be us sometimes. When we pour ourselves into a business and we beat all the odds so far, naturally we start feeling proud. But then that pride warps into something else. It begins to personify the company's success, and we start feeling that we are in control. And this mentality, it is successful because of me, I have the golden touch, will bring very, very fast the collapse of us and the company. Subtly, our attribute will change. And when a team member will come to us and offer a suggestion, we will instinctively reject it because how they can know better than us? And then we are going to find ourselves talking over people in meetings, or we will ignore industry data because we can trust our gut, right? We brought the company so far, so our gut must be alright. Perhaps we will even start thinking and take undue risk. We're convinced that our genius will carry the day. Meanwhile, inside the team, a storm will be brewing. Our engineers will see that we are ignoring the warning signs in the product analytics, or we just don't do product analytics at all. Why do we even need that if we are so good? But they will start thinking it's useless to bring the data to us because we are going to dismiss them either way. Our top salesperson will get frustrated because we overrule a tailored pricing strategy backed by customer feedback, they get on a call in favor of our own ideas, and new deals will start floundering. These talented folks will start to disengage, some will consider quitting. You, however, me, and everybody else who falls into this pitfall deep enough, because all of us are in this up to a certain level, the problem is getting it down, keeping it under control. We will interpret any struggles we will get not to any flaw of our decisions, but as rather not executing well enough by our team members, or not getting our vision, or by the market that is downperforming currently. And once the ego defeats us, we literally stop hearing the signals of trouble because we only trust our own voice in an echo chamber that we made. This is a lonely and dangerous place because a founder consumed by hubris might appear confident externally, but often inside there is a fear of being wrong that they mask with bravado. The emotional cost is loss of genuine business gut. We no longer have a team or partners who challenge and enrich us. We have followers at best who either fear us or mock us behind our backs. The moral and psychological decay here is subtle. Pride isolates us, erodes our capacity for empathy, and ultimately attaches our self-worth entirely to being right. And when reality eventually proves us wrong, as it inevitably will in some way, the crush is devastating. As one experienced founder put it after humbling failure, any ego I had was deflated. I lost my co-founders and I was looking at shutting the company down. Hubris not only hurts the business, it hollows out the founder from within, replacing what was once passion and curiosity with bitterness and denial. The remedy for destructive ego is cultivating humility and a learning mindset, without sacrificing healthy confidence, of course. This doesn't mean that we have to stop believing in ourselves. It just means we intentionally surround ourselves with truth and perspectiveness that aren't just our own. In the end of the day, humble leadership is far from being a weakness. Humble leadership shows a significantly better profit to companies, as humble CEOs foster more collaboration, better decisions in teams, and higher employee engagement. So, how do we achieve this practice? That would be the question. We need to start with actively listening and asking for feedback. We make it a habit in meetings to speak last, not first. Let others voice ideas before we chime in. And we need to ask our team routinely, what am I missing? Do you see problem in my idea? And when someone points out a flaw, we need to find the instinct to snap back. Instead, thank them for their honesty. Demonstrate that their value input creates a culture where the truth is valued, and they will feel okay bringing you up your own flaws over the time without fearing loss of job opportunities or a future raise. It might sting at first, especially if we are used to being the smartest person in the room, but it will ultimately save us from the greater pain. Another principle we need to embrace: a beginner's mind. We need to remember that we hired advisors, senior team members, or co-founders with different expertise precisely because they know things we don't. As the proverb goes, in abundance of counselors, there is a victory. To operationalize these, we need to set up structures for checks and balances. For example, we need to encourage dissent in planning sessions. If we have a board of directors or a team that is great, we need to be transparent with them about our plans and welcome their grueling. And we shouldn't view it as an affront, but as a filter making our ideas even stronger. A founder with a balanced ego We'll also admit mistakes and share credit. If something goes wrong, we need to own it and learn. And if something goes right, we need to highlight the team's contribution. In the end of the day, we are not lone wolves. And a great business is a team sport. This sounds moralistic, but it directly affects performance. Our teams are going to start going extra mile for a leader who gives them credit and respects on a personal psychological level. Once we practice this self-awareness, our team may even double down in performance. A great tool will be simply asking ourselves in moments of tensions when we feel like our team is going against us. Is this my ego talking? Am I refusing the input because I genuinely have evidence it's wrong, or just because I don't like being questioned? And it takes honesty to answer that. Some founders find that mindfulness or even having a coach can help keep ego in check. And by making us more aware of triggers, coaches and people around us help us overcome our insecurities and stop us from fueling our own arrogance. In the end of the day, we have to remember that confidence is important, but we need conviction to lead in tough times. But confidence must be anchored in reality and openness to improvement, not our ego. We need to get used to thinking of humility not as meekness, but as willingness to see the truth. A powerful principle to recall is in a data-driven book by Jim Collins. It's called Good to Great, and I strongly encourage you to read that. It's something to must read for anybody in leadership position. And there it states that the best leaders possess a paradoxical blend of fierce will and personal humility. They are ambitious, but for a cause, but modest about themselves. Aim to be that kind of a leader that is described. At Growth Architect, we often talk about being purpose-driven, and there we need to let our purpose be bigger than our pride. When purpose is paramount, you will do whatever best serves the mission, even if it means taking advice, changing our approaches, or giving someone else the reins when needed. In summary, we have to study how to be humble. We need to accept the reality when we are being humbled by the market or our team members. And we need to choose humility proactively on a daily basis, because this is not something you do at a moment of time. This is a lifestyle. And we need to keep ourselves receptive to truth and growth. And there, people around us will start respecting us more. And when we do this, just enough times, we'll transform ourselves from a know-it-all guy to a boss who is trusted, a respected captain, the one who steers the ship with a full crew of the eyes on the horizon, not just our own vision. In the long run, this makes us and our company anti-fragile, able to withstand storms of change and market challenges, because it's not chained to one person ego, but uplifted by a collective intelligence and a leader wise enough to listen. Perfectionism and micromanagement are the twin siblings of being a lone wolf, but they are more distinct. Perfectionism leading to micromanagement. It is when a founder's high standards mutate into an obsession with every detail being just right, causing them to hover over every team and choke the organization's ability to move quickly and creatively. The founder or the business operator become a control freak. Nothing is ever good enough to be released or done without their input. This might come from a genuine desire for excellence, but it often results in paralysis and demoralized team. Micromanagement is a well-known morale killer in any workspace. For startups, it can be lethal because speed and innovation are the lifeblood, and micromanagement suffocates them all. Let's just have a look at the statistics from a workspace study. Nearly 3 out of 4 workers said that micromanagement is the biggest red flag in that workspace. And almost half of them, more precisely 46%, said that they would quit the job because of that. And that's right. If we micromanage, we risk losing our best talents outright. Generally, people don't produce their best work under constant scrutiny and lack of autonomy. They either shut down and just do the tasks without initiative, or they leave for a healthier environment. From the founder's perspective, perfectionism often causes analysis paralysis. How many businesses have delayed launching their product for months or years because the business operator kept tweaking and polishing, waiting for an impossible level of perfection? And the danger here is twofold. Internally, because we burn time and funds obsessing over diminishing returns, and externally, because we miss our window to enter the market or learn from clear customer feedback. A competitor with an MVP product can swoop in and gain traction while we are still polishing the apple. There is also a psychological toll. By trying to control everything, we, as business operators, become a single point of failure. We are overextended, and our team just stops thinking for themselves, thinks they're sure that we are going to redo their work anyway. And this creates a vicious cycle. The more we micromanage, the more our team disengages and outperforms, which justifies our micromanagement even more. Ultimately, the company's growth grinds down because one person is the bottleneck for every decision and deliverable. It is the death of scalability. If we don't learn to let go of perfection, we won't be able to build our business at all to the level that it deserves. The pursuit of perfect, ironically, can perfectly destroy our chances of success. Now let's get it a bit personal. Why do business operators fall into the perfectionist trap? Often it starts from a good place. We deeply care about quality and we have a vision of how things should be. But then imagine a scenario when a startup is preparing for a big product demo. And instead of delegating tasks and trusting our team, we find ourselves rewriting our developers' code at 2 a.m. because their style just isn't good enough. We are redesigning slides of our marketing manager because we don't like the font or phrasing isn't exactly what we like. We might even be adjusting the spacing on the company website homepage at the last minute. We are exhausted and irritable, but we tell ourselves, if I don't do this, it won't be right. And in a demonstration meeting, we are fried from lack of sleep and worse. Our team members are quiet and passive. After all, we have signaled them that we don't really value their work because we will override it anyway. How do they feel? Of course, underappreciated, undermined, and stripped of creative ownership. And how do you feel? Frustrated because nobody seems to have the same work ethic or eye for detail as we or you. And we say, Why can't they just get it right? Just because we never tried them and we didn't treat them as we should. The answer is in there. Another hard truth is that they may have already gotten many things right, but we are fixated on tiny imperfections. As the pattern continues, tension continues as well. Our employees start to second guess every action. You fire them or they fire themselves. In the end of the day, what's the point of trying? Because boss will change it anyway and our work won't be valued. And because they don't put the work because of the very same reason, you are unhappy and you fire them. And over down the road, we find increasingly minor issues to fix because once we are in perfectionist mode, nothing ever satisfies. There is always another tweak, and progress slows to crawl. Every piece of work goes through 3 revisions and approvals. Meanwhile, we are approaching a breaking point. We are juggling 10 micro tasks that shouldn't even be on our plates. It is like trying to catch every grain of sand slipping through an hourglass. An exercise in futility that leaves you panicked as time and opportunity slip away. Emotionally, perfectionism often comes with anxiety, the constant worry that any flaw, however small, will doom the company. It's a heavy burden to carry alone. And ironically, as we carry it alone, we alienate the very people who could share the load. And this is the human cost of the control trap. Isolation, stress, and the creeping realization that we've become the bottlenecks and the morale is dying. It's a painful mirror to look into, but it is necessary if we are going to change. And the way out of control trap is captured well by an aphorism. Done is better than perfect. As a founder or a business operator, we must internalize that speed of learning and iteration beats waiting for perfection. This is a core principle of agile businesses and is supposed to be countless success stories. Think of it this way. A 90% good product launched today is infinitely more valuable than a 100% perfect product launched a year from now. Why? Because with a 90% product, we will get real customer feedback. And we can make it 100%, even 1000% over time because of this very same reason. And we might have captured the market already. With a perfect product delayed, we might run out of money or become irrelevant. Operationally, we need to set clear quality standards and outcomes for our team. But then we need to give them the autonomy to meet those standards in their own way instead of hovering, agree on what good looks like together up front. For instance, rather than editing every slide in a marketing deck, articulate your core message and trust the team to express it. If our team delivers something off base, we are going to use that as a coaching moment. And they are going to appreciate that. We are going to explain them the gap without taking the task back onto ourselves. And we will trust them again to make things right. It might feel faster, however, to do it ourselves, but in the long run, teaching and trusting our teams multiplies our capacity. If there are 100 decisions to be made in a day, we ideally take 3 or 7 of them, and the rest of them, our team handles them with the frameworks we already made. And to get there, we must relinquish control and accept that others' methods may differ, and that's okay. A practical tip is the 70% rule. And in terms of quality, if a team member's output is 70% as good as what we envision, we let it fly, and the remaining 30% can be improved through coaching and feedback cycles. And eventually they may even become better than we are. Also, we need to prioritize what truly needs to be perfect and what doesn't. For example, life critical software or a legal document might need extreme precision, of course. And then we need to double check those, but our logo placement, internal documentation format, or minor code refactoring preferences are not where our energy should go as business operators, depending on which stage we are. Rather than we focus on high leverage activities instead of pixel pushing. And from a psychological perspective, this is going to require embracing imperfection as a virtue and part of the process. Encouraging a culture of iteration, where we can even openly acknowledge to our teams that we are going to try things, and some of those are going to be messy and are not going to stay, and that's completely fine. We will learn and polish as we go, and this takes pressure off everyone to get it perfect on the first try. The moral principle here is trust in our team's competence and in the process of continuous improvement. And if we don't trust our processes that we set up, then there is a problem with our leadership. And trust is a two-way street, essentially. When we extend it, people rise to the occasion. They take more ownership because they no longer fear the failure, which means they're going to put their best effort and often delivering quality that surprises us in a good way. And if they know that we won't jump down their throat for minor mistakes, they will be more innovative and proactive. Finally, consider systematizing control in a scalable way. Instead of us personally reviewing everything, we can set up peer review systems or quality checklists that the team can use. That way, quality is enforced by a process or a culture, not by our micromanagement. This aligns with system design, creating an environment where excellence emerges from collective practices rather than one person's obsession. In the end, shifting from a perfectionist, hands-on founder to a high-level leader is a form of personal growth. It means valuing progress over perfection, empowering over control, and long-term learning over short-term flawlessness. Let's remember that many wildly successful products and companies launch with imperfections. The first iPhone lacked many features, as simple as copy-paste or front camera. But Apple shipped it and improved rapidly. If Steve Jobs' Apple can do that, so we are. So we just let go of the myth that only I can do it right, replace it that our jobs is to ensure it gets done, not to do it all ourselves. And as we ease our grip, we will likely find our company moving faster, our team growing more capable, and our own stress levels dropping. In a very real sense, abandoning perfectionism is a form of embracing excellence. The kind of excellence that is achieved through teamwork, iteration, and trust. Isolation and not seeking support is about the founder or a business operator who goes it entire alone, who fails to seek mentors, advisors, or emotional support and keeps the struggles bottled up. Or if you are a believer, it's no communication with God, no communication with Jesus, how to handle things, and lack of trust in God. We often idealize the image of the lone genius founder, but the reality is that business operator isolation is dangerous. It deprives us of guidance, perspective, and psychological relief of sharing the burden. Another demonstration of this for believers is lack of prayer. We don't pray to God. We don't ask questions. And we still expect the blessing and the result that the prayer and communication with God entails. In extreme cases, this leads to severe loneliness and poor decision making. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely road. A business snapshot survey found that 27% of founders and business operators struggle with feelings of loneliness and isolation, rating their loneliness a striking 7.6 out of 10. That is more than 1 in 4 founders who feel alone in their journey. And why does this matter? Because isolated business operators are more likely to experience burnout and mental health issues like patterns that we have been discussing. And these people also lack the sounding boards that can catch bad ideas or prevent avoidable mistakes. There is a reason why 8% of startup failures cite not seeking or using a network or advisors as a contributing factor to the failure. When we don't consult others, we can become trapped in our own echo chamber, convinced of our approach even if it's flawed. We might misinterpret market signals or miss early warnings that a mentor or peer could spot easily from experience. Additionally, isolation can exacerbate stress. We have no one to confide in about the crushing pressure we are under. Over time, this can spiral into serious mental health declines. And we have seen tragic outcomes in the business world where founders and operators' despair went unseen until it was too late. On a less dire but still harmful level, going solo means that we are reinventing wheels and repeating mistakes that a network of peers or advisors could help us avoid. Imagine struggling for months with a go-to-market strategy when a quick chat with a seasoned business operator could have pointed us in a better direction. But not reaching out, we pay a hefty ignorance tax in time, money, and sometimes in the ultimate currency, our business life. Humans are social creatures. Even the most driven founder and business operator benefits from camaraderie and counsel. When we isolate, we are effectively fighting with one hand tied behind our backs. And let's think of emotional experience of running a business without any real support system. Imagine a business operator who wakes up every day with a knot in his stomach, not sure who he can talk to about his fear that maybe his growth has stalled or that he made a wrong strategic bet. His employees look unto him for confidence and answers, so he feels that he can't show them his doubts. Investors expect optimism and progress, so he certainly can't open up there. Friends and family, they might not understand the unique challenges the business poses, or he simply worries he will just burden them. So he keeps keeping all his sight. At networking events or on social media, he puts on the brave face, the hustle and grind, everything is great persona. But late at night, the stress is crushing him. Perhaps he envies others who have co-founders to brainstorm with, or executive coach, or just a peer group from an accelerator. Instead, he's left alone with his racing thoughts. Every setback feels catastrophic because he has no outside perspective to put it in context. Every tough decision feels like a lonely gamble. Over time, the loneliness can turn into a sense of alienation from his team because they don't get what he's going through, from non-founder friends because they don't get what he's doing at all, and even from our loved ones. One founder described it as it is, he told. I had to nev- I had never felt so alone as when my startup was succeeding. And everyone saw the success, but no one saw that I was depressed and overwhelmed. In more acute instances, isolation can lead to breakdown. Let's recall earlier story of a young founder who bottled everything up until he ended up in the hospital with a breakdown. He admitted that he didn't want to wake up in the morning during the dark period of his company. That level of despair often comes when a person feels there is no one to turn to. The sad irony is that many founders think they are supposed to shoulder this burden alone, that it's somehow a weakness to seek help, when in fact, the greatest business operators actively surround themselves with support. Feeling alone in a company full of people is a surreal and painful experience. It's the lonely at the top syndrome, and if left unchecked, it can hollow our motivation and cloud our judgments. The way to break out of isolation is to proactively build ourselves a support network and practice vulnerability as a strength. We need to start with a mindset that seeking help isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. The most respected founders and business operators often have mentors guiding them, like Bill Gates getting counsel from Warren Buffett or Mark Zuckerberg leaning on Steve Jobs in Facebook's early years. And if they can seek advice, so we are. So we need to identify mentors and advisors for different aspects of our business. This could be informal, an experienced business operator to catch up with on monthly basis for candid chats, or formal, like an advisory board. When we face a major decision or a crisis, we just pick up the phone. Even a brief conversation with someone who has been there can give us new direction and perspective, or at least comfort that we are not the only one who is faced with these problems. Equally important is peer support. Connecting with fellow business operator at a similar stage can be immensely relieving and insightful. Many entrepreneurs form or join masterminds, groups or peer circles like entrepreneurial organization or business accelerators and alumni networks. And they meet regularly to share challenges in a confidential setting. And suddenly, when we are in a group, when we are in a society, we start realizing that everyone wrestles with self-doubt, hiring dilemmas, investor drama, etc. And this relationship provides emotional ventilation and often practical solutions, which we never considered, but they were quite simple. It's like having a personal board of directors for our psyche. Also, we need to involve our co-founder or valuable team members in problem solving if we have them. One mistake isolated leaders make is assuming that I have to solve it all problems myself. In reality, showing some vulnerability to your core team can strengthen trust and invite their ideas. And we don't have to dump all the anxieties on them, but saying, "Here's a tough issue I'm wrestling with, I would love your perspective," can turn a solo burden into a shared mission. It also exemplifies the moral principle of mutual support. We are in the trenches together, and by acknowledging that we empower others to step up is at least important and strategic part of team building. And on a personal front, we do not underestimate the power of a coach. Many founders now openly talk about how executive coaching and the prayer to God was critical in navigating the roller coaster. And these professionals and support from God and Holy Spirit gives us a safe space to unpack our stress, and that's the place where we challenge negative thought patterns and develop coping strategies. It is like personal training for our mental resilience, a wise investment for the athlete running the business marathon. Another key part is the communication with loved ones. We shouldn't shut out our spouses and partners or close friends under the assumption they won't understand. Yes, they may not get the intricacies of hiring process, but they deeply care about us. We need to find ways to express what we are feeling so they can support us emotionally and be on the same journey with us rather than being isolated from what we feel, which in the end of the day can lead to divorce or lack of happiness and just break the communication, because many people stay married but they cut the communication and emotional ties in their 40s or 50s. Most of the time because of lack of communication what they are going through. And feeling understood and loved in this case in our personal life forms a bedrock of strength that carries our marriages and our relationships. And from an operational standpoint, considering joining an accelerator or an incubator, if we still don't, would be a great idea, because these programs deliberately create network and mentorship for founders who might otherwise be solo. And even if we are past the stage and we are in a deep business development stage already with scalable products, uh, some events and conferences or online communities, Slack groups can plug us into broader ecosystem. And we are never truly alone unless we choose to be. That's the simple truth. The business world has plenty of folks willing to share war stories and advise us if we extend a hand. The moral principle underpinning all this is humility and openness, and recognizes that we don't have all the answers and that other people can fortify us. It also touches on camaraderie. Great things are rarely achieved in isolation. When we break the isolation, we will likely feel a weight off our shoulders. Decisions won't feel as scary when vetted by trusted advisors. The journey becomes more enjoyable when we have comrades to celebrate wins and commiserate losses with. And psychologically, we regain a sense of belonging and perspective. So, let's take a step to reach out. We can send an email to a fellow business operator we met at a meetup asking if they want to grab a cup of coffee. We can sign up for an online business forum and post an introduction. We can ask someone to respect if they had been open to mentoring us. And these actions can literally save us a business and perhaps even our sanity. In the end, strong business owners and operators build strong support systems. And remember, if one wants to go fast, he goes alone. If one wants to go far, he gets a team to go with. This said, let's surround ourselves with allies in this journey. We will go so much farther and we will feel better by doing that. Here we tackle the 7 deadly sins of a business operator of poor communication, leading to team dysfunction. These occurs when the business operator fails to communicate vision, expectations, or feedback clearly, or avoids difficult conversations, resulting in confusion and conflict within the team. It also encompasses not managing critical team members' relationships openly. In short, the team falls out of sync, functions develop, or co-founders and business partners end up at odds. Internal disharmony is a silent killer of businesses. sapping energy and derailing execution from within. Businesses often live or die by the team cohesion. The classic CB Insight analysis found that not the right team contributes to 23% of business failures. More dramatically, as mentioned earlier, some studies suggest that key team member conflict is a top reason businesses implode. By some estimates, it's involved in 50 to 65 failures. Even if those numbers are debated, the message is clear. When the people at the helm can't get along or when team communication breaks down, the business is on thin ice. Poor communication can take many forms. A manager and a business operator who keeps changing direction without clearly explaining why, just trying back to the focus issue that we have been discussing. Or a business operator who withholds bad news from the team, which leads to rumor mill and distrust. Or someone who simply doesn't listen to team members' concerns. In business operation dynamics, lack of frank communication about roles, equity, or vision can breed resentment. A small misunderstanding that is left unaddressed can grow into major schism. The danger here is multifaceted. Talented employees may leave because the environment is tense and chaotic. Productivity plummets as people pull in different directions or spend time politicizing. In worst cases, legal battles erupt between co-founders or key staff, which can scare away investors and customers. A company is a group of humans, and humans can either unite under shared purpose or splinter into feuding tribes. As the business operator, you are the one setting the tone. If communication isn't your priority, conflict will fill that void. And the business, already fragile enough by the market, cannot handle the toxin or internal division for long. It's dead by 1,000 cuts, each unresolved argument, each confused task, each clash of egos that isn't managed until the culture corrodes and the venture collapses from inside. Let's make this visceral by imagining a scenario of team disharmony, where you are the founder CEO with small team. Lately, you notice meetings have become strangely silent, or worse, filled with passive-aggressive barbs. Your CTO and head of product seem to be at each other's throats about future priorities, but neither will openly address it in front of you. Instead, you get CC'd on long emails, threads, or Slack messages of finger pointing. And then you realize that you may have given them overlapping responsibilities or unclear boundaries, which directly makes you responsible for the situation. And now it's a turf war. Meanwhile, your employees on those teams are confused what direction to follow, and projects are stalling because of the infighting. This is the result of unclear communication of roles and conflict avoidance early on. Now, it becomes a larger issue. In another corner, you and your co-founder have been silently disagreeing about the company's strategy for months. Rather than hashing it out, you both make side comments and try to subtly push your viewpoint. And the tension rises. Employees can feel the founders are not aligned. People start taking sides. Gossip begins circulating at the office and even outside of it, and one day it boils over. a heated argument between you and your co-founder in front of the team, even the customers. And it's embarrassing and frightening for everyone. You see respect draining from your team's eyes as they witness the leadership crack apart. Emotionally, this is devastating. The company was your shared dream, and now you are barely speaking to your co-founder except to argue. The team you hired isn't a cohesive unit but a collection of factions or confused bystanders. Work, which used to be fun and mission driven, now is toxic. You might dread coming into work because of the interpersonal strain, but it's no longer about solving cool problems together. It's about tiptoeing around landmines of unresolved issues. If you have ever been in a romantic relationship with poor communication, you know exactly how draining it is. Now imagine that magnified across an entire team. It sucks the life out of the startup. And there is your guilt there. As the founder, you wonder, did I create this mess by not setting clear expectations? By avoiding tough talks? By not establishing a culture of openness? That nagging realization can really sting, but it's also the first step to fixing things and mistakes that you made, which are inadvertently to happen because it may be the first time to be in such a communication or managing such a big team, but now there is a chance to fix it. And the solution is embodied in one word: communication, which is clear, consistent, and courageous. As great teams thrive on transparency and alignment, and it's our jobs as business operators to cultivate that. Firstly, by establishing clear vision and values, aka core ideology, and communicate that relentlessly. This will give everyone a shared North Star and a common language for what behavior to expect. And when a team truly knows why they are doing what they do and how you all agree to treat each other, talking about values like respect, openness, no assholes, etc., many conflicts can be preempted or resolved in that context. Secondly, we can practice and encourage open dialogue. This means creating forums and habits where issues can be surfaced early on. I would never take enough stressing this, and a great way is described by an apostle of Jesus who says, "Don't go to sleep until you solve the problem and the quarrel that you had with your brother." And this is a great example how problems should be solved early on. As they grow, they will get harder or impossible to solve, and you will be faced with an issue, as each of us may, of leaving someone out of team, a great person, because we didn't address things on time. So, for example, we can do regular check-ins or retrospectives where team members can candidly share what's working and what's not, and give frank evaluation on our managerial style as well. As the leader, we must model vulnerability and active listening. We should admit our own mistakes openly, so team takes this as a great examples. And when someone raises a concern, we should listen fully and thank them instead of getting defensive and dismissive. And if our team knows that we will hear them out, they are going to be far more likely to voice things and problems they are having before they fester. One practical approach is implementing a version of the no surprise rule. Essentially, it's when everyone, including the business operator, founder, CEO, agrees to bring up problems or disagreements as soon as they arise instead of waiting for an occasion, and rather than burying them. So, business operators, especially, it's critical to have alignment talks early and often. We should define our roles explicitly. I'm CEO, I'm doing X. I'm COO, I'm doing Y. And you are managing accounts and you are doing Z. And this will minimize overlap and power struggles that are common in companies that don't have clear borders in managing the task list. And then we need to decide on how we will make decisions together. Do we seek consensus or divide domains? Put it in writing if needed. And this doesn't go just to business owner. As a business owner, as we discussed previously, you might and you need to give certain authority to your staff. And this is where you also need to have consensus, where they are making decision and where your input is needed. So they feel and see that they are the ones owning the process. And many founding teams benefit from a neutral facilitator or coach that can come to help with these conversations if communication is not the best skill for the business operator, ensuring both voices are heard. And it might feel awkward, but a few hours of honest conversation about expectations and conflict resolution strategies can save us money and countless more hours to come. And if conflict does occur, inevitably in growing teams, of course, it will happen. We will address it privately and quickly if it's possible to solve it that way. And this will not let resentment simmer. Sometimes it also helps to recall what we both ultimately want from the company, talking about us as first side of the conflict, and second, our co-founder, significant team member, or other employee. So we both want the company to win, so it's a common goal that can anchor a tough discussion that we have to have, which will eventually get personal, but if we have this ultimate goal, we will find a consensus. And for wider teams, talk about 50 plus, 100 plus, misalignments are going to happen. And just if two department heads are at odds, we bring them together in a room, and as a leader, we become middlemen in these negotiations, and acting as mediator will lay out the shared objective, then let each explain their viewpoint fully, and most of the time that would be enough to resolve the issues. Of course, we don't interrupt them. Then facilitate a solution or a compromise. Often simply clearing up misunderstandings or just letting both parties to hear each other out is just enough to solve the problem. Another way is encouraging an ethos of disagree and commit, which is a great principle which works great for Amazon, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. I think it's worth more than $100 billion. So, which says that it's fine to have debates, but once a decision is made, everyone commits to it fully. No sabotaging, no lingering or bitterness. That only works if people feel their perspective was heard in the first place, and they are ready to do the sacrifice because they were heard. Now they sacrifice for a common mission. So essentially, for this principle to work, we need to make sure we have a strongly set up core ideology. So we need to create that environment. Another principle is caring personally and challenging directly. And as a business operator, you show your team that you care about team as individuals. And because of that care, you will directly tell them when something needs to improve and invite them to do the same towards you and each other. And this avoids the pitfall of ruinous empathy, which is being too nice to point out issues, as well as obnoxious aggression when criticized without care. So practicing this kind of respectful candor can transform a culture. It might be helpful to have a team member read about the concept or bring in a workshop so everyone has a shared understanding of healthy communication norms, which is so we don't shy away from written communication as well, for clearly, because and this is where the most pitfalls happen, because in written communication you can't understand the emotions of other party behind the screen. So but taking current dynamics that businesses move fast, it's worth writing down decisions, policies, or plans in a shared document so everyone is literally on the same page. For example, after strategy meetings, send a recap email. Here's what we decided. He is who is responsible. This prevents the scenario of people having different interpretations of what happened, which is very common. On the human side, team building and trust building can't be ignored. People who trust and know each other personally handle conflicts much better. So invest some team bonding, which can be trips, a hiking, any communal event. It can be some great work like cleaning in the community, and it can be also formal and informal. But these structures and a great trust also for future team interactions during the business hours. So when we set up this foundation of goodwill communications, what we will see that everything will tend to be interpreted more positively. We will see less malice or incompetence in other sections. We'll see less sabotage because people will start liking each other because they know each other better. And finally, if we realize communication isn't our strong suit, we should invest in improving it. Yes, we can bring in a coach, as discussed previously, but it's not a scalable growth. So we can invite a coach, we can see how the coach is handling the problems, and we start studying those patterns and implementing in our management style as well. And it would be great for managers read management books so they understand better the psychology of people they are working with better to help and support them more efficiently, or even getting a mentor ourselves or giving it to a mentorship to our core team members so they can grow faster as well. In the end of the day, if you grow too fast and your team doesn't, there will be a huge gap which would be at certain point impossible to address. And yeah, so essentially just coming to conclusion of this topic is that our technical and visionary brilliance won't matter if our team implodes. And as a growth architect, I and others who believe in this mentality think that communication is an architecture of our company's social system. It needs design and maintenance too. In moral terms, this is about respect and unity. We need to treat others as we would expect others to treat us. Kept in the loop, told the truth, and listened to. So, let's encourage debates on ideas but not attack on character. And when we uphold these principles, we create a culture of trust, and trust is the great grease that keeps the business engine running smoothly through high process and sprints. By turning poor communication into excellent communication, we unlock the full power of our team's talent. People move in concert rather than conflict. Co-founders present a united front. The energy that was vested on internal issues gets redirected to innovation and growth. And frankly, work becomes a lot more enjoyable for everyone. When a founder leads with clarity and empathy, the team becomes an unbeatable force ready to take the market, not because problems never arise, but because now we have equipped everyone to handle them together. That is the hallmark of not just a great business, but a great place to work. Drifting from mission and values occurs when a business operator loses sight of the deeper why behind their venture. The mission, passion, or values that once drove them are gone. In the grind of a business life, it is easy to become consumed by metrics, vanity milestones, or chasing investors' favor, and in the process, the original purpose erodes. The founder and team become mercenaries rather than missionaries. This lack of purpose or passion can kill motivation from within, leading to a hollow culture and poor long-term decisions. Essentially, the company loses its soul, and with it, its staying power. Building a business is notoriously hard, and what sustains many founders, business operators, and people within is a sense of deeper purpose. And when that fades, burnout and bad choices creep in. It is telling that in that CB insight list we have discussed a while ago, of business failure reasons, lack of passion was cited in 9% of failures. If the business operator and the team don't feel passionate about the venture, it's almost impossible to inspire employees, team members, attract customers, or weather the inevitable storms. Moreover, entrepreneurs motivated purely by quick financial gain, as well as team members or key members of your team, they gain often struggle to preserve when things get tough. And research backs this claim up. A Harvard Business Review study noted that entrepreneurs who are intrinsically motivated by mission and personal fulfillment are significantly less likely to burn out than those chasing extrinsic rewards like money or status. In fact, those chasing money or status are more likely to experience burnout. This is a crucial insight. If the only reason for doing this is a payout, our internal resilience to outward pressure is weak. Losing purpose also has a moral and cultural ramifications, because without guiding principles, a business can drift ethically. The operator might start making compromises, maybe sacrificing product quality for short-term revenue, or engaging in sketchy marketing, while slowly corrode the brand and trust with customers. We have seen companies implode because they lost their North Star and succumbed to pressures in ways that violated their original values. And we can think of various scandals where business owners just faked metrics or overhyped behind honesty to keep on appearances. Just a few days ago, a startup which had more than $500 million in investment tanked. It was simply telling it was using AI while engineers from India were doing the work. Sarcastic. So when we abandon our values, our team notices. Good people may quit rather than be part of a scheme of something that conflicts with their integrity or original excitement. And what remains could become a cynical, disengaged workforce who are just punching the clock. That is dead to a nimble, innovative business culture. In short, a business operator without purpose is like a ship captain tossing the compass overboard. The journey is likely to go in circles, if not a crash, or run around. The external might look fine for a while because impulsively it will move forward based on your previous value that you provided. But inside, the spirit is gone, and sooner or later, the momentum will break. And eventually, customers and markets will sense the loss of that direction. They, they will feel that. And just now, let's just take a way back. Let's rewind to when we started the company. And perhaps we were driven by a personal problem that we experienced and we wanted to solve, and we found a solution that works for everyone. Maybe it's a community we wanted to serve, or a vision of changing an industry for the better. That purpose got us through all the setbacks to where we are. It rallied our first hires, our first efforts, and put first strong team members next to us. Now, fast forward a few years into the grind. Perhaps growth has been slower than expected, or conversely, maybe we achieved a level of success and then plateaued. In the hustle to please stakeholders, please our friends, we started making decisions that didn't sit quite well with our guts. Maybe adding a feature that misleads users into spending more because it boosts revenue numbers, or pivoting to chase a hot trend that none of our team really believes in. Those things start happening. And each compromise made makes us feel a little bit more uneasy. But we justify it as necessary, and over time, though, these small detours add up, and one day we wake up and realize I'm not excited about what we are doing anymore. We start hating our businesses. And it's terrifying and sobering feeling for a business operator. We might feel like a fraud or just feel empty. The passion that fueled our late nights has been replaced by joyless, oblivious, or a focus solely on a financial scoreboard. And our team, they can tell something is off. Maybe the original mission statement that once hung on the wall has been taken down to make room for charts and KPIs. They notice that the business operator seems more stressed about making the quarter's numbers than delighted by user success stories like before. The language shifts from purpose-driven statements like "we are here to make something better for people" to more operational "we need to hit targets, whatever it takes," even if that's unethical. So without meaning, the work can start to feel like, well, just work. The original loyalists who joined because they believed the mission might feel disillusioned because they will understand that this is not something they signed up for. This wasn't something we promised to them when they joined the company. And some or most of them will leave. And those who stay might begin to embody a mercenary mindset themselves. So if we are just here to make money, I will do my job, get my paycheck. That would be logical mentality in that kind of a company. So that enthusiasm and creativity born of a cause evaporates. Culturally, a company shifts from a tribe of believers to a group of individuals who happen to work at the same place from 9 to 5. For us, as the business operator, losing purpose can also lead to personal moral dilemmas. Perhaps we catch ourselves telling a half-truth in a sales pitch or exaggerating progress to investors, and a voice inside us says, "Why am I doing this? What have I become?" This inner conflict is painful. Purpose used to give us pride. Now might feel shame or just apathy. At its worst, this can spiral into existential dread. We built this company and now we are stuck running it, but we don't love it anymore and we don't know how to rekindle the flame. That is a lonely, scary spot to be. Outwardly successful, maybe, but internally struggling. And principle-based solution to this, to prevent or fix this pattern, is to reconnect with our why. And that's why it's critical to have core ideology to reconnect to and realign our company with that. We can start by stepping back from the day to day firefighting and revisiting the fundamental questions. Why did I start the journey? What change did I want to create in the world? Who am I trying to help and why do I care? And we can write this down, can talk it out with someone we trust, with a coach, or even take a brief retreat to reflect if the original mission still resonates. And that's how core ideology should be built on. Core purpose shouldn't be something negotiable. It should be ideally something vague enough so you can keep tweaking the strategies. We have asked if we have drifted. Ideally, the gap between our initial ideal and current reality should be determined. For example, if our mission was to empower small businesses, but now 80% of our revenue comes from upselling enterprise clients, we don't feel served that mission, acknowledge that disconnect. It might be time to adjust vision back towards serving those small businesses. Or if the business reality requires on focusing elsewhere, perhaps the vision should be aligned to something that will give you more room to play with. So timeless, more principles along this should come into play as well. Integrity, honesty, and service, they are non-negotiable. We should ensure that our current tactics align with ethical practices and our core values. And if we don't have one, we need to make sure we set one up, and I will attach a link to the video of how core values look like and how we can set those up. And if we don't, we should have the courage to change them, even if it means taking a short-term hit. For instance, if we realize a growth hack we employed is misleading customers, we should stop it. In the long run, being true to our value builds a far more sustainable company and brand. We should remember that great companies often stand for something beyond profit. Whether it's Google's early motto, "Don't be evil," or commitment to the environment. Founders who publicly and privately double down on principles attract customers and employees who resonate with those values. You get what you want. And creating a positive feedback loop of meaning and loyalty comes naturally as morals are high in the company. This helps us re-engage with our team with the mission. We should have, ideally, all hands meeting that reiterates the purpose of the company, not the OKRs, not the revenue goals, but the real world impact we aim for at least once a quarter. We should share stories of how our product or service has improved a customer life or solved a real problem. And that often reignites passion more than any graph or user numbers. We should encourage our team members to share their personal why for working there and find the overlaps and encourage them to keep going. And this is how we recultivate a sense of mission collectively. And if you find that we personally have evolved and the original mission no longer excites us, it may be worth considering to pivot that aligns with a new vision we do care about, or even an exit transition if that's feasible. A business operator who doesn't believe in what they're doing is not only unhappy but will eventually be ineffective. It is better to course correct than to lead without heart. On a practical level, incorporate purpose into your strategic decisions if you want to win. For example, we can use a mission to filter when evaluating projects, if we believe in that. And we compare everything to that vision. We ask ourselves, does this idea advance our mission or dilute it? So positive answer will mean we need to go with the project forward, a negative note. And some companies formalize this by having a purpose audit periodically. Also, we can consider setting impact metrics alongside financial ones, things like customer satisfaction, community growth, or social impact measures. And tracking these will remind everyone that success isn't just in dollars, it's also delivering on our promise. Reviving passion can also come from innovation and learning. Maybe monotony has made things stale, and that's something which I'm usually coming back to. At those times, just new experiment empower me and my team. And this works the same way for everybody else with new ideas that serve the mission. The sense of possibility that just bring back the excitement. For us personally, should reconnect with our customers or users directly if we as business owners and business operators are feeling monotonous. We should spend a day or a week in their shoes, talk to a dozen of them, and we will see firsthand the difference our company makes. And this will reignite our commitment. It will give us some fresh spark of ideas to scale and make the product even better, which will make the company great. From an operator mindset perspective, we can think of ourselves as a steward of a mission. If that aligns us with a Thomas More's outlook, almost like the mission is a trust given to us. And if we have this stewardship mentality, we will protect the mission, we will make it work no matter what. Our duty is to honor and advance it as stewards, not to betray it. When framed like this, tough decisions become cleaner. We start choosing the path that keeps faith with the mission. And the paradox is, by focusing on purpose and principles, profits often follow because we build a brand and product people genuinely connect with. In summary, we should keep our business soul alive. And we can do that by regularly communicating the why to our team and ourselves. Celebrate value-driven decisions as much as financial wins can be a great way of remembering the strong sense of why. And if we have strayed, we shouldn't be too proud to correct course. One operator I know physically keeps a photograph of the people he set out to help on his desk as a daily reminder of the mission. So each of us should find our equivalent. A founder, operator with a clear sense of purpose becomes a beacon of inspiration. Our teams rallies, our customers feel the authenticity, and we ourselves gain almost inexhaustible energy to push through challenges. And it transforms the journey from a grind into crusade. The good kind, of course. And by rooting our business in human values and meaning, we ensure that success is defined not just by how much we win, but how we win and why. That is the kind of success that truly lasts and fulfills. In the high-stakes pressure cooker of startup life, many business operators fall into the trap of compromising their integrity and ethical standards. This could mean exaggerating metrics, hiding bad news, cutting corners on product safety or legality, or adopting a win at any cost mentality. Such ethical lapses might provide a short-term advantage or relief, but they plant a poison inside the company. When a founder forsakes honesty and integrity, it can ultimately kill the business, its people from within, through loss of trust, legal consequences, or cultural erode. And this much aligns as much to founders, to business owners, to managers, or people who are about to become ones. While ethics might sound absurd in this violent world, its violation has very concrete outcomes. Consider some of the most spectacular startup implosions in recent history. Theranos is a prime example, a $9 billion valued company disintegrated virtually overnight when it became clear that the founder had systematically lied about the product's effectiveness. It wasn't market forces or competition that did Theranos in. It was the internal cancer of fraud that started from its founder. Now, not every ethical lapse is that extreme, but even smallest one will have its outcomes. And many businesses suffer dead by 1,000 cuts as small dishonesties accumulate, as team members get used to being dishonest. If they are allowed to be dishonest towards customers, why wouldn't they be dishonest towards us business operators as well? And even investors are wary. One of VC quip that fake it till you make it taken too far becomes lie till you die. A Fortune article points out that Silicon Valley has an ugly, unethical underside where pushing boundaries can cross into deception easily. When trust is broken, whether with customers, employees, or investors, the repercussions are severe. There might not be a statistic that says X% of startups fail due to ethics, because often ethics issues manifest as other symptoms as this seed starts to grow into quarrels in the team and founders or co-founders stealing funds to smaller issues. But it starts from there. They can be different. The seeds can be legal action, team exodus, because some people wouldn't dare to stay in this seat. It can be public scandal, a CEO that's removed, and etc. And more situations like this. Without any clear numbers, we can infer the risk. Analysis by an investor at Founder Collective noted that outright fraud is very rare, but small ethical lapses are not rare but rather common, and they tend to snowball under stress. And the statistics advise that catching those lapses early might save the company. As lies grows, the bigger it becomes, and at a certain point it's no longer possible to handle without significant loss. And as it grows, the loss is gonna be bigger and bigger, and the only question is when you take that. And letting morale sink is going to kill the company. Internally, if a business operator is seen as ethically loose, it contaminates a culture and everybody around. We are here to set up an example, and if it's a bad one, we should be responsible. We should be held responsible. Employees may start taking cues because they study from their manager. If they see leadership bending rules or values when convenient, they are gonna do the same. They will simply become demoralized and leave. Either way, performance and unity suffer, and top talent who have a chance to choose where to work won't stay at the company, so company wouldn't grow, and everything will collapse as a house of cards. With lies, the only thing we can build is a house of cards, not a sustainable builder. Externally, customers and partners might not stick around if they catch even a whiff of dishonesty. And once our reputation is damaged, it's incredibly hard to regain. Trust is business operators' most valuable currency that shouldn't be negotiated at any cost, and an ethical lapse can devalue it to zero overnight. Imagine, you are in a crunch, your business is running out of runway, and you need that next funding round desperately. The numbers aren't great that quarter, sometimes happens, so consider tweaking, just slightly, the narrative. Recognizing revenue a bit early than it's to come, or padding user stats by counting inactive accounts, or maybe not disclosing a non-product flow. This way, and to justify it, because everything else is polished to metrics. This is just how the game is played, you believe, and we are gonna fix it down the road, and indeed, maybe you succeed. Investors seem convinced, and they give you the term sheet. Relief washes over you. But now you are set a precedent. You have set it. Next time pressure mounts, you do it again, just like a gambler in a casino. Perhaps pushing even further, which would be most likely the case. The same logic, the same psychological frame that gamblers or smokers have. But now, deep down, a part of you likely feels uneasy, but you keep doing that. There's a stress that goes beyond normal business stress, the stress of waiting for the door shoe to drop or an email from customer complaining of what you did to them. And you might feel fear that an employee will leak the truth or an audit will expose the real numbers, and living with this fear is corrosive. It can grow at your confidence and peace of mind. Perhaps you even avoid certain questions or start lying to your team as well to keep the narrative straight. And this isolates you further, tying to that isolation pattern we discussed, but for a much worse reason. And now your co-founder or CFO might raise a concern. Is this really okay? Or your direct subordinate might ask that question. And if you brush them off or pressure them into a scheme, you've now compromised someone else's integrity too, which is not only outside of morale, but for us as Christians, it's not acceptable at all. And this will breed resentment or guilt in them. And imagine another scenario. Under competitive pressure, you implemented a growth hack that skirts user privacy consent. It boosts signups, but one of your engineers points out it's not compliant or not very ethical, and you should shut that down. You say, just do it. We need the numbers. You see their morale drop. You've effectively told your team that ethics are secondary. Over time, this can become cultural, and when you see them deceiving you, don't go far trying to understand where it comes from. Just watch in the mirror. And people will start fudging things to appease you, or worse, the honest ones will just disengage and leave. Now you will end up surrounded by those who either don't care about right and wrong and are liars, like you, or are too timid to speak up, a dangerous echo chamber. Then consider the worst case. Your misrepresentation come to light, perhaps a due diligence process finds the real churn rate, or a journalist hears whisper from a former employee and publishes and exposes that, or a security issue you swept under the rug blows up. When that happens, the sense of crisis and shame is overwhelming. You will have to face your board, your employees, the public, knowing that it was your choices that led there. We have seen founders break down in tears in front of employees when admitting wrongdoing. Some never recovered personally. The stigma can stick for life. It is hard to get a second chance after an ethical scandal. Even if the company somehow survives, trust is shattered. Externally, customer will flee. Internally, every word you say now is met with skepticism, even if it's not allowed. And the emotional journey of rationalizing small ethical compromises can quickly turn into a nightmare of feeling trapped by a lie that grows bigger than you ever expected. And if you think you can keep it small, you are wrong. It's going to grow as you keep doing that. It's akin to being caught in a web you wove yourself. There is a deep regret. If only I stayed true to my values back then, I wouldn't be in this mess now. And the solution is straightforward conceptually. Commit to integrity. We need to commit to integrity as a non-negotiable foundation of our company and ourselves. In practice, this means setting clear ethical guidelines early on for us, for our team, for how we conduct business and sticking to them no matter what, especially when it's hard. Principles only mean something when they are inconvenient. Firstly, we need to develop a culture of honesty and transparency and be brutally honest with ourselves and our team about the state of things. If numbers are bad, just don't hide it. Face them, face the brutal reality, and communicate appropriately. It is better to disappoint or adjust expectations now, as it will be significantly harder to do it later. Another tactic would be, if we find ourselves starting a sentence with let's just say that we have X, we say, is that true? Is that the whole truth? So that the starting of the sentence when we say let's just say already means that something is trying to be kept hidden. And we say, is that true? So whenever we feel in discussion people want to conceal certain facts, we get all the truth. In the end of the day, as a business owner, you should understand confronting brutal reality is the best thing you can do. If you don't confront now, you are gonna confront a reality 10 times worse, if not more, later down the road. So find a truthful way to address the issues, or just don't address them at all. Establish internal checks. Encourage team members to speak up if they see something ethically questionable. You might literally tell your people, if we ever feel we're asking you to do something unethical, please raise it. We want that discussion. And then if someone does raise a concern, we should reward them for it. And this will set the tone that ethics aren't lip service in this room. They are lived values, and we should adopt the mindset that long-term trust is more valuable than short-term wins. A practical framework is to consider how any action would look if it were made public. This is sometimes called a newspaper test or sunlight test. If the decision you are about to make were on the front page of TechCrunch tomorrow, would we feel okay with it? If not, probably don't do it. Better yes, conduct yourself and do it right away. Or just accept the fact, if you are a believer, that God is always with you, watching your every step, and you want to make sure you act making sure that He's proud of you. You want to make sure that Jesus is proud of your any action. And these little mental tricks, which of course talking about Jesus being with us is not a mental trick, this is absolute truth we need to recognize. I'm talking about mental trick, about psychological patterns people want to implement with the team. will help us keep aligned with our own moral compass. Operationally, we can set even policies to enforce ethics. For instance, on financial reporting to investors, we can implement proper accounting early so we are not tempted to cut corners. Which is creating an environment where cutting corners is not a possibility, which takes a lot of seduction away from the process. And on user growth, we can establish acceptable acquisition practices like no buying fake user, etc., or not buying fake subscribers. On product, if issues arise, we can have a policy of informing affected users and fixing it rather than hiding it. Knowing that we have a procedure to follow can remove the temptation to do something shady in panic. If we ever do sleep, which will eventually happen because we are humans, the best damage control is the one that comes clean and corrects everything ASAP. And cover-ups, they're just gonna make everything worse because those issues are going to repeat again and again, and it will have a snowball effect on your customer base and for your team. So people can be forgiving if you own up. If we just tell them that we did wrong and we are sorry, we fix the course, they will be forgetful. For example, if we overstated something to investor and realize it, we should go back and clarify or adjust. It's uncomfortable, but it's far better than a future confrontation when they learn the reality and also realize that you and me were not honest. Just a popular TV show called Shark Tank. I think on TV they close on the close deals on a TV show, only 30 to 40% close in reality because the other 60% they just dilute the numbers or just hide an important fact. With this said, we also need to remember that protecting our integrity protects also our mental health, because when we operate truthfully, we can look everyone in the eye and sleep at night. It will give us better work experience and spiritual health. We free ourselves that way from the stress of maintaining lies, which is a huge cost. This peace of mind is priceless in the already stressful startup world. On a higher level, we can lean on timeless moral principles, honesty, accountability, fairness if you are a Christian, Bible, if you are a Muslim, Quran, if you are Jewish, you can rely on Old Testament and build on that. We need to infuse this into our company value statement and decision-making criteria. And some companies even write a code of ethics that guides employees and teammates. Not just legal some document, but simple statement like we do the right thing even when no one is watching. And as a founder or a business operator, we need to hold ourselves accountable to these principles and allow others to hold us accountable as well, which is a critical part of this mechanism. There is also the angle of seeking counsel when in doubt. If we are unsure about the ethics of a decision, we shouldn't rely on a potentially biased justification, especially if the deal is most of the time is gonna be great one for us, but rather we consult someone outside the immediate pressure bubble, maybe an advisor, mentor, or even a peer founder or a manager, and they might offer a cleaner perspective and encourage us to find a more ethical solution. And often there is a creative solution that doesn't require compromising values, even if it seems not obvious at first. And finally, we keep the long game in mind. Our reputation as a founder will outlive this one startup or a business. Industries are often smaller than they appear. Word gets around, and if We build a reputation for integrity. People will want to work with us again and again. We will hire the best people. We will scale in the best way possible, even if initial venture fails. And if we burn our credibility, we might not get another shot. So just think beyond the immediate win-loss. Think on a long term. Think of the legacy that you want to live. Let's each of us think of that. Not just in our professional community, also in people around us. So by leading with integrity, we also set a standard that lifts our company and ourselves up. People around us, our teammates, feel proud to be part of something principled, something that boosts morale and loyalty. Customers and partners learn to trust our brand, which is invaluable. And when problems happen, and they will eventually whatever business you are, having the bank of trust means people give us the benefit of the doubt rather than assuming the worst. In summary, integrity is our company's immune system. It guards against internal decay. It is a line of defense that, once breached, leaves us vulnerable and weak. So we should guard it fiercely. As one business ethicist famously said, "Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets." Just keep earning those drops consistently, and if you hold yourself to the highest ethical standards, if all of us do that, we will not only avoid the deadly pattern of deceit, but actually attract goodwill that can propel our venture forward. At the end of the day, we want to build something we can be proud of. And that alone is worth more than any ill-gotten quick win. The final deadly pattern is our inability to adapt, whatever due to stubborn loyalty to the original idea or a paralyzing fear of change. Businesses evolve as well as marketplaces. And a business operator who refuses to pivot with the market, adjusting to strategy and new realities and confronting brutal reality, and embracing feedback drives the company off a cliff. This includes analysis paralysis, which is essentially overthinking and not deciding, as well as pig-headedness, refusing to acknowledge the reality. In short, inflexibility is the face of necessary change that is killing the company from within. Adaptability is perhaps the defining trait of successful business. We have countless examples. YouTube started as a video dating site before becoming a general video platform. Slack emerged from a failed gaming company. Netflix pivoted from mail order DVD to streaming. On the flip side, business operators who stuck stubbornly to a flawed model ended up in the startup graveyard or in a list of unicorn companies that failed, like BlackBerry. The data reflects this. About 10% of businesses in CB Insights study failed due to a pivot gone bad or failure to pivot when needed. Nearly 7% of them specifically cited failure to pivot as a reason of failure. And consider that the lack of market need, getting outcompeted, and other reasons often could be addressed as a result of not pivoting on time. As when those go unaddressed because of a business manager is in denial or too slow, failure follows. Stubbornness can also manifest in clinging to a team structure or technology that isn't working, or refusing to change a toxic culture because this is how we operate it, this is how we do things. And the fear element, the fear for a chance, which is so common to human nature if we don't overcome, often underlines this. A business operator might see evidence that a new direction is needed, but be too afraid to embrace new realities and choose to be a follower of market realities, following those who do take those steps on time and falling behind, hoping that somehow the situation will magically improve. But if we are not proactive, we are losing the game because the market is not waiting for us. So if we just push harder on the current path and we accept the truth, there are higher chances of our companies succeeding. And internally, inflexibility will create frustration. Our team, advisors, coaches might be telling us clearly that we need to change, but we don't do it. And if we ignore them again and again, they either disengage or leave us. A business operator wrote after the company collapsed. He was telling that he saw the need to pivot. He just couldn't do it until it was too late. And he lost his team, he lost his company, he lost his co-founder. And that matches a story from earlier examples. Business operators' hubris led him to delay pivoting. As a result, he lost the team and nearly shut down the company. And the danger of this indecision is equally pernicious. In a startup or a business, making no decision can be worse than making a wrong one. At least a wrong decision gives us a feedback cycle to correct, but indecision leaves us stuck, burning precious time and capital with no learning, as our competitors are already out of customer feedback loop. As the process goes, not making a choice is itself a choice. It's a choice for a market to outrun us, for our competitors to outrun us. Everything that's human is evolving, including businesses. And if we decide to stagnate, eventually, market is going to pass by, and it's a big question if we will ever catch up again, or just become another merged company. And ultimately, to stagnate or indecision is a slow fail. And let's say we poured our hearts into a product that we love. And now we are emotionally attached. Yes, this was the vision, maybe even our identity for the last couple of years, but the market is telling us a different story. It's 2025. AI is taking over. Realities are shifting. And many companies don't understand that, even now, when everybody talks about that. And this is how strong convictions and inability to adapt can live up to. If we are not adapting, we are in love with the features but ignore the truth, we will lose the market. And maybe a new competitor will change the landscape, or a global event will suddenly render our approach less viable. But we will be forced to change, but that already will be too late. And these signals are painful for us to confront, because they imply that what we are doing, what we have been building, sometimes isn't quite right. And that's painful. It can feel like we aren't quite right. So we dig in. If we just give it more time, if we just add a few more features, a few people who see original vision as brilliant, we would find ourselves winning. The truth is we are just dismissing data. And the surveys are not wrong, and users, clients who don't buy our product because not good enough are not wrong. We just reject suggestions to pivot when it's time. When we don't take data-driven decisions, we are setting ourselves for failure. And yes, sometimes it's not what we plan to do, but reality is shifting. And this kind of denial can be strong. It's essentially a grieving process in advance. It's denial, anger, bargaining, maybe acceptance, but sometimes it's too late. Meanwhile, our team is actions. They see the numbers. They are in those sales calls hearing why customers won't sign up. They have ideas, maybe to try different market segment or repurpose the tag in a new application, but every time they bring it up, we shut it down and might not realize it, but some of them are already polishing their resumes, sensing the upcoming doom. Our investors will grow restless too. Board meetings will become contentious as they push us to consider plan B or C, and we keep insisting on plan A that's already not working. And tension and fear will have in our office environment like a cloud, a fearful of failure that's to come. And inside us, there is a likely battle between pride and fear. Pride says, I'm right, I just need to execute better. Fear whispers, what if I can't do anything else, if changing courses means I fail? This internal conflict can be torturous. And to avoid this, we might double down on work in the same direction, even working 100 hours a week. Or it would just make us paralyzed, really. And doing nothing, it would be another choice because it feels like an admission of defeat. So we won't at least imitate work. And each week that passes like this without new adoptions, things usually worsen. More churn, more money spent with poor ROI. And it's like being captain of a sinking ship and refusing to turn the wheel or patch the leak because we believe that course is fine. Eventually, reality will hit us hard as an iceberg. Maybe we just run completely and we finally do what's right, but that's already too late. Competition already caught up and the market outpaced us long while ago. And that's the moment we will start panicking. We will force to pivot under deception with this desperation, which is far harder and less likely we'll succeed again. Market outpaced us. Proactive pivot usually wins, and forced pivot is usually a sign for a doom to come. Or it may be worse, there is no time left and the business collapses, leaving us with the horrible knowledge this might have been avoided if we acted sooner. And that regret is a heavy one to bear. And the antidote to inflexibility is a combination of humility, curiosity, and courage. We need the humility to accept that initial idea might not be perfect, that we are not perfect. The curiosity to seek out truth is essential because that's what the market really wants, and the courage to take action on the truth, whatever it is, even if it's uncomfortable for us. One practical framework is adopting a lean startup mindset. We can treat our business assumptions as hypotheses, however ideal they seem, that need testing rather than edicts. This detaches our ego from the product. If an experiment fails, it's the hypothesis that failed, not us. We can regularly ask ourselves, what does the data or feedback suggest we should do differently, and that's what the decisions need to be based on. We should make it normal to pivot small things all the time because that's what the business is. It can be feature changes, messaging tweaks, and if a major pivot is needed, we shouldn't see it as a shock, but as the next logical step in the iteration was essentially the problem. The core was that we have been married to an idea we shouldn't have been married to. We've been married to our core idea, to our core purpose, not the means, and strategy and products are just the means to execute on that core ideology. We should embrace the mantra that be stubborn on a vision but flexible on the details. Our vision might be broad enough that there are multiple paths to realize it. That's why we should essentially target to keep the visions broad, because market is changing. We shouldn't get wed to one execution path if another proves more promising in achieving the core vision, even though we are used to one of them. We should encourage a culture of continuous learning and based on that, make decisions. This means actively seeking negative feedback and contrary evidence all the time. When a user or an investor says, I don't think this will work because, instead of dismissing them, let's dive into their reasoning. Okay, Mr. Investor, tell me more. What do you think? Why do you think it will fail? And these people will give us golden information to work with. A business operator mentality that helps is falling in love with the problem, not the solution. This is a great approach. If we stay passionate about solving the customer problem, we will be more willing to change the solution, approach, or whatever works best. We should also schedule periodic strategy reviews, maybe even quarterly or after any major milestone, where we and our team ask, given all we have learned, is our current strategy the right one, or should we pivot or tweak? This normalizes the concept of pivoting as part of growth, not as an admission of failure. Eventually, everything comes back to building great systems. Principle-wise, open-mindedness is key. This ties back to humility, acknowledging that we don't know everything and that conditions change as market changes. It may help to recall moral, philosophical teaching about the danger of pride and the wisdom in flexibility. There is an old parable of the oak tree that stands rigid in a storm and gets snapped versus the reed that bends with the wind and survives. Be the reed, not the unyielding oak. From an operations perspective, we should use data-driven decisions. Wherever possible, it's harder to be stubborn in the face of clear metrics. We should set up metrics that matter. It can be customer acquisition costs, retention, engagement, whatever is viable to your business. And in the end, we should be willing to pivot strategy if data tells consistently negative story. Also, we should be more open to listening to frontline team, which are sales, support, marketing. They know better that something is off, that a different value proposition is resonating than you. So you got to hear them because they are the ones interacting with customers and getting real world data. The fear of change is a barrier we should confront fear directly. We can ask ourselves, what's the worst that can happen if we pivot? Possibility would be we can lose some work invested in the old approach, or we risk alienating a few existing users. But weigh that against the worst if we don't pivot. The company may fail completely if we don't follow the market. If you see it right, the choice becomes clear. Also, we can break the change into smaller steps if that helps. We don't always have to overnight overhaul. We can test a new direction in a pivot, which is a great way of doing things before turning to strategy completely. It can be small or side project with a few clients to gain more confidence in the strategy and get real life feedback before it's implemented. It will give us also so needed feedback cycles to improve on before it's implemented generally in a company. And many famous pivots started as a simple side experiment while the core product was still running. Another technique is pretending that we are the new CEO brought in to turn the company around. What would we immediately see as obvious changes to make? And this is a technique where we distance ourselves from our company. And sometimes distancing ourselves from our company lets us see things objectively. We might realize a fresh perspective would ditch some aspect we have been clinging to, or it might also make important to differentiate between healthy persistent and unhealthy stubbornness, which is something we need to train ourselves to. Persistence is not giving up on the overall mission despite obstacles. That's good. Unhealthy stubbornness is not changing the approach despite evidence is the wrong approach. One way to tell is this: if we are basing our persistence on evidence that our plan is working or has real potential, or just on willpower and hope, which one of these? If it is not data driven, not connected to real world, then it's set up to failure. The other ones, these are red flags. Additionally, we can think of bringing in advisors or mentors once our budget allows us, who have a track record of PVs or broad experience if the company is large enough. And they can often spot pivot opportunities or necessarily sit before us, and they can encourage us when it's time to make the leap because they know it better, because they have done it before. And sometimes business operators just need someone they respect to say it's okay to change direction. You are not failing, you are being smart. Just a healthy helping hand, just a small push to get going. Sometimes that's all that needed. And that's give them the psychological affirmation to do that. At the philosophical level, we can adopt the principle of continuous improvement called Kaizen, which is truth seeking. We should value truth over being right. If the truth is that another approach is better, then being right means changing our mind. There is nobility in that. Remember, the moral rigidity is brittle. Adaptability is strength. As Darwin noted, it's not the strongest or most intelligent who survive, but the ones most responsive to change. By becoming a flexible, learning-oriented business operator, we essentially future-proof our business chances. Markets will shift, technologies will evolve, and we will be able to navigate those currents rather than be drowned by them. We will also inspire our team, as they will see that it's fine to experiment and change, which makes them more engaged in finding solutions rather than hiding problems. In conclusion, I would just add this: we should be willing to break what we built in order to build something even better. Pivoting is exactly that process. And that's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of growth and wisdom. And as business operators who can say, I was strong, let's do it differently, we gain more respect and not contempt. And that flexibility can be the difference between a business that solely dies on a stubborn hill and one that finds the volley of opportunity on the other side. In this video, We have journeyed through 10 deadly patterns from burnout and hero syndrome to ego, poor communication, lost purpose, ethical lapses, and stubbornness. If some or many of these hit uncomfortably close to home, take heart. Every founder, being human, will recognize at least a few of these tendencies in themselves. And these are not just for founders, these are for business operators and managers who want to know themselves better. And the difference between those who are killed from within and those who rise stronger is not about being perfect. It's about being aware and proactive. Why does all this matter at all? Because as business operators, we are the linchpin of our company's success. Our startup can have great technology, ample funding, a promising market, and still crumble because of internal failings. Conversely, a startup facing external challenges can prevail if the business leader leads with a clarity of mind, resilience, integrity, and adaptability. And by addressing these patterns on time in ourselves, we are effectively fortifying us and our businesses. We transform from a potential single point of failure into a source of strength and stability. We can think of this as an architect reinforcing a building from the inside, shoring up beams, aligning the blueprint with true north, installing safety valves, and adding flexible joint to withstand quakes. These are the underpinnings of a company and a human individual that is built to last. The Growth Architect philosophy is that businesses are built first on human foundations, psychology, principles, frameworks of thinking. Master these, and you can design enterprises that not only achieve financial success, but do so with soul and longevity. We, by embracing these timeless principles, will create a legacy we are proud of and a workplace others are proud to be part of. So as we reflect on these patterns, let's ask ourselves, which of these might be undermining us right now? What concrete steps will I take to change the course? Perhaps it's institutionalizing a real weekend off to combat burnout, or finally hiring that operations manager and delegating. Maybe it's scheduling a heart-to-heart with your co-founder about a conflict, or gathering your team to reiterate your mission and values. It could be sending that apology or correction to someone you weren't fully honest with, or picking up the phone to call a mentor for advice on a hard decision you have been avoiding. The takeaway is empowering. None of these internal demons is unbeatable. Each can be recognized, managed, and overcome with intentional effort and the right mindset. And in doing so, we don't just save our companies, but we become a better leader and a better person. We model the kind of growth and resilience that will inspire everyone around us. In the end, being a business operator is as much a journey of personal growth as it is a business quest. By slaying these deadly patterns, by refusing to be the bottleneck or the bully to ourselves, we unlock our fullest potential as leaders. Our businesses then aren't dragged down by the founders or managers. They are being elevated by them. That is the crux of why we should care deeply about everything we have discussed. Because the hardest battles are within, and winning those makes all the difference in the battles outside. Now, armed with the data, stories, and solutions, we have a playbook to recognize these pitfalls in real time and respond with principle-based action. The road of entrepreneurship will still be challenging, no doubt. But we won't be tripping over our own feet in the dark. We will be moving with eyes open and spirit steadfast. So let's go forward. Let's build not just our company, but ourselves. Let's avoid these deadly patterns, cultivate their virtuous opposites like balance, trust, focus, humility, transparency, purpose, integrity, adaptability, and we will not only survive as business operators, we will thrive. And in doing so, we will turn our businesses into the kind of venture that defies the odds, inspires others, and achieves enduring success from the inside out. Let's achieve our growth, starting from within.